everyone. Today is day 4 on our networking tutorial in cybersecurity. So in the last class, we talked about setting up a wireless network using the PC, the laptop, and the smartphone. These are end devices and also the access point device. And we tested our network. We're able to use the ping. We're able to also send our packets across devices using the simple PDU, and we tested the status, whether it was successful or not. Why today we're adding our server to our connection. We're going to be adding our server to our connection. Servers are used for a whole lot of things. Servers can be used to load web pages, can be used to access the internet itself, can be used to send emails across devices and all that. So today we're going to be adding our server into our network connection, and we're going to be loading a web page. To do that, we need to configure our server in the first place. So this video is going to be as short as possible. So let's get right into that. So first of all, we go to end devices. We go to end devices and we look at our server. Then we drag and drop that. So in this connection, we're dealing with only wired connection. Servers have to be connected using cables because of their speed and all that. So we're going to be using the wired connection for our servers. So because of the speed and all that, and that is how it is, just like you see in your movies and all that, a lot of wires and a lot of servers leveled up together in a container or in a box or in a storage area, something like that. So we have our server. So what's the next thing? Then we try to connect our server. Then we pick probably a cable, click on these ones and drag to this. So now we've already connected our cable from the server to the access point. So the next thing now is to configure our server. And how do we configure our server? We'll go to the config tab or the desktop tab, and we add our IP address. So let's do that. We go to the config tag. You can decide to use the config tab, and you decide to click on the faster net and make sure it's static. Then you add your IP address, or we decide to go to the desktop and go to IP configuration and decide to add our IP address. So we know we are on street 168.0. This is our street. We know we are on this street, and let's give it number 4. Since we don't access point don't need all that. So basically the Wi-Fi name itself and the password, that is how we connected our devices to the access point. So our PC was on block 1, our smartphone and others were on block 2 and also block 3. So our server stays on block 4. So we understand that since we're using class C naming, the first 3 digits are like the street name or the host name itself, and this is like the number itself, the last one. So subnets gets added automatically. So now we're done with that. If I want to confirm, you can go back to config and click on fasternet and see that it's been written here. So that is that on that. If you notice, we didn't turn this off, turn this on and all that, and we didn't try to actually drag any of this WMP or WPC and all that, because we're dealing with a wired connection. Our server has to be connected via cables, through cables and all that. It's not like when we're connecting our PC or smartphone to the access point where we needed a wireless connection and all that. So for this one, we just need it has to be connected. We don't need any of these cables and all that. So these are only used for wireless connections. And all that. So that is that on that. So our next step is to test the web server itself. The next step is to test the web server, having already given our server an IP address and all that. So we need to test our web server. So how do we do that? We decide to you can click this back, and we can decide to click on server and you can decide to go to services. So when you see services, you're going to see a bunch of stuffs and all that, but we're interested in the HTTP and all that. So when you look at this, it makes sure it's on, make sure it's on. The HTTPS, the secure, is also on. So what are we trying to access? We're trying to access the index.html, the index.html, the index.html. So when you click on this edit, you're going to see a program file here, but we want to review this. We want to show this on the web server. This is accessing the web page itself, accessing the web page that is on the server. So this web page itself that has been there by default, we need to be able to access that on the server. So that is that on that. So let us go right into desktop and we go to web browser. So we need to wait for that for a bit before it loads and all that. So our web browser has already loaded. So what do? We need to what our URL will be, that will be our server's IP address. So that's 192.168.0.4, and you click on enter key or you just click on go. So voila, we've been able to load our web page on the server. Remember in the last class I talked about editing the web server and showing any of our commenters, or the commenter with the most likes and all that, the commenter with the most likes and all that. So right into that. So I'm going to click on services and I'm going to try to edit our web page. Remember, we were initially on desktop, so you click on services. If you're unable to see this page, you can click on HTTP, then come back to edit, then you should be able to see the web page. So let's try to edit our web page. Remember, you were able to see what Cisco Packet Tracer, and you're able to see as many links, a small page, copyright, and all that. So if I go back to that, small page, copyright, Cisco Packet Tracer, small page, copyright, and all that. So let's try to edit this. For those of you that might know some things about programming and all that, so you should be able to edit this, although this is old HTML syntax. Some of these are old HTML syntax. So let me try to add something there. So under the HTML, let's put something like center. Remember, when you open a tag, you have to close it, just like when we are doing programming. And I can decide to add just Dan hyper, since I was not able to get any commenter. So let me just add Dan hyper to this. So remember, when you've typed something, this basically means centering your name, centering the text, Dan hyper. So if I click on save, overwrite, because there's a file name, overwrite. So that means this takes as a new input, overwrite that. When I go back to desktop and I click on maybe enter key, now you can see Dan hyper on your screen. You can see Dan hyper on your screen. So I can decide to play along with this. I can decide to what, paste this again, and I might decide to give this, remove the center key from this, I want this to be welcome. I want this to be welcome. And when I click on what, save, when I click on save, it's going to overwrite. And if I go back to desktop and I click on go, now you can see our welcome on the screen. So that is that on that for today's class. So maybe in our next class, we're going to be doing more across editing all these web pages and all that. So you can, like, for instance, I might decide to give this a color rather. So I might decide to give it a color. So this is Dan hyper. Before you give it a color, you need to add your font. So, which is where you need to be able to add your font. You need to be able to add your font, and you close another one. Remember, you've written your font, you need to be able to close that. And Remember, this is just the font. We didn't add any attribute to it. So if you look at this Cisco Packet Tracer, it has some attributes. The first one is the size +2, meaning the default +2 in pixels, and we also have a color blue. So I might decide to just copy these attributes. Remember, the attribute is the color itself, and the value is blue. But I don't want it to be blue. I want it to be green. Then I use just a simple color. Then I try to click on the save. There's always a file, so overwrite. So once it has done that, then you go back to this and decide to press enter key. Now we see that our Dan hyper is turned green. And if you want to make that as obvious as possible, we can decide to add a new attribute there. Size equals let's use single distance +5, and let's decide to save that. Overwrite. Now when you click on that, now you can see our Dan hyper, it is as big as it can be. So you can decide to edit this as in different ways that you want. So but that is that on that. Now we've been able to establish our server, meaning we've been able to give our server an IP address, load a web page on our IP address, or connect our server initially with a cable, with the copper straight to cable, and we added our IP address, and we also loaded a page on the server. So in our next class, we're meant to send an email across or a message across all these devices using the server. So, but I don't want this video to be too long. So what I'm going to do here is something that I've done in other videos. And what is that thing? That is actually showing our packet as it is being transferred, as it is being sent. Remember when in our last class, we used a simple PDU to send messages across, and were you able to see them through here? The last status, the source, the destination, and all that. But right now, I want to be able to see what we've done so far. in the sense that I want to see those messages moving from PC, from the access point to laptop, and from here and so on. So if I'm sending from PC to laptop, I want it to be able to show. If I'm sending from PC to smartphone, I want it to be able to show. We're done with the server part. In the next class, we're going to be able to interact with our devices through the server and the access point. Remember, the server is connected to the access point, and all devices are connected to the access point. So we can be able to view a web page, that same web page on our PC, using the connection between our server and our PC, which is the access point. So we can be able to view whatever that is here, in here, through here. We can be able to view whatever that is here in the laptop through the access point. We can be able to view whatever that is in the server, in the smartphone, through the access point. So now we're done with that. That will be in the next class. But right now, I want to teach you guys how you can show your packets moving from the PC to the smartphone, from the laptop to the smartphone, and all that. Normally, if I decide to click on the simple PDU and click from PC to laptop, then I scroll down here, you're gonna see the status successful, which is PC to laptop. But it was so fast that I wasn't able to see it. So how do we do that? We'll click on, come to this place. We're gonna be seeing the real time and the simulation. We are basically on the real time mode. So we have to go back to simulation. Then you click on simulation. That is how you'll be able to see all this move as they can, all this move as they should, So that is that on that. So if you notice that the simulation is running audio process again, we're having in progress. I think we can be able to bring this up so you can see it clearly. Should be able to drag this. Okay, we can't drag it beyond that, but I wanted to show you what all this means. So if you look at this, all our processes, all the things we've done in the last class, they are all in progress. If you look at it, all in progress. but they're going to take a little time for them to get sent. Remember, simulation is what simulation is doing is trying to simulate the real life process, in the sense that if you are trying to send the PC to the smartphone, how long is going to take and all that. Remember, it's very, very fast because it's wireless, but it's restarting the whole process again, so you should be able to see in progress and all that. You should be able to see successful very, very soon. And why? Okay, my bad. If you look at this area, there's a play control. It needs to be what? It needs to be what? Played. It needs to be played. So when you play, you're going to be are you seeing my screen? So the first process, which is the PC to the laptop, you can see it moving. So that is that on that. So our PC is moving. It was giving you X. It was because that message was not meant for any of these. It was meant for only PC. The X symbol just symbolizes, I don't know what this means. I don't know what this means at all. So this message is not for me. Same thing here and all that. So, and if you notice, you see some successful, and all that. So sometimes you have to wait, or you have to just forward the messages and all that. But all messages have been sent. So basically we have to just backward this. So let's try to backward this. So let's decide to backward this and wait for it to happen again. So messages are being sent now. So what are we going to be having? So it's only it's to the PC and not to the laptop, or to what? It's to the PC and not to the laptop or what, any of those devices. So you can keep backwarding that, or you might even decide to what? Reset your connection, reset the simulation. Or you can decide to just do another one. So you can come to simple PDU, decide to click on that, and you click on maybe laptop to PC. So, and you wait for that. So here we're seeing in progress. So you might decide to wait for that. As long as you have to make sure it's in what? It's playing. So let's check if we can forward that now. So if it's taking time, you can decide to what? Just click on next, which is the next button. So when you click on that, now packets are being sent from the access point. It's not me. It has gone to what? PC, because we sent from laptop to PC. Do you understand? And that is getting a reply back. Now it's going back to this place because I sent from here to here. So it has gone back. Do you understand? So laptop has received its feedback and all that. So that is that on that. So you can play around this, and at the end of the day, you will see successful. So it's easy. You just have to play around all these things, and you'll be able to learn and understand how the simulation works. So that is that on that. So in our next class, we're going to be trying to load this server image in any of our web devices. In the server web page, we're going to try to load them in any of our devices and see, instead of just loading them on the server itself, just on a web page or in a browser, we're going to be loading it in any of our devices. We're going to be able to, whether it's email or anything, we're going to be able to try to send email also across through the server to our devices. So that is that on that. So when you see this, try to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to comment and share so that others can actually get access to this channel. Have a great day.